Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the second coming event, the moment of our own resurrection, receiving our own resurrection bodies, and the judgment. And we're studying through what Jesus has to say about it, and then we're going to look at Paul, Peter, and John and what they write in the New Testament about that moment. In Mark chapter 13, excuse me, Mark chapter 13, we're going to be reading verses 32. Um, um, we're going to be looking at verses 32 through 37, 32 through 37. Okay. Jesus says in Mark chapter 13, um, in fact, let's go back to verse 31. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone. Take heed, keep on the alert. You do not know when the appointed time is. It's like a man going around a journey who, upon leaving his house, puts his slaves in charge, assigning to each one a task. Also commanded the doorkeeper to stay on the alert. Therefore, be on the alert, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming, whether evening, at midnight, or at cock crowing, or in the morning, lest he should come suddenly and find you asleep. And what I say to you, I say to all, be on the alert. So it's very much what Jesus has said in Matthew's gospel. I mean, word for word, this generation is not going to pass. Um, my words will not pass away, but of that day and hour no one knows. So in Mark 13, Mark is recording, and we've talked about Mark before. Probably this is part of Peter's preaching. Mark is Mark is recording what Jesus is saying when he makes the distinction between the destruction of Jerusalem and the end of time. And then we have the householder going on a journey. But we have the endless inventiveness of Jesus. We have this throughout the Gospels. He'll use the same image, but in different ways. Women kneading dough, and he'll use that in a different way in different Gospels. And preachers do this. You can take a good story and make a variety of applications with it. Of course, none of us can do it the way Jesus does. In Matthew's Gospel, a couple of days ago, when we referenced that, when the master goes away, he comes back and the servants are all drunk and dissipated and partying. But that's not what happens here. He just surprises them, and they're not at their tasks. And so in Matthew's gospel, the parable is very much about um, appropriate behavior, and there's a little different nuance in Mark's gospel. Matthew's gospel is about don't be caught sinning at that moment. Mark's gospel is don't be caught idle in that moment. Be at your task. And Paul's going to have an issue with this in Second Thessalonians. People who are so convinced of the imminent return of Jesus, as we ought to be. We have to live as if we're going to live this life at all. But they were so convinced of it that they stopped working and they just were waiting around for Jesus to come again. Jesus himself, in his preaching about this moment, tells us you work until the moment. You gotta you gotta keep playing until the game is over. You can't slough off. When I come again, you must be about your task, whatever that task is in the kingdom. You be at your station. You be doing what you are supposed to do. When I return, I expect you to be doing your job and find you working. And that's the emphasis that Jesus makes in Mark's gospel. But but in let's remember Jesus is not just communicating this at one point. He says in verse 37, and what I say to you, I say to all. I've been saying this and I'll continue to say it. Be on the alert, be ready for my coming. Okay, we're right at 5 minutes today. It's one of those rare times in which I'm closing on time. We're going to look at Luke's gospel next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.